Oh, hi guys. I've got Chris here, our guest, Chris, can you introduce yourself?
So you
The
can
long awaited
okay.
Chris, can you introduce yourself?
Okay, hi, I'm Chris. I'm an autistic survivor and I'm an upcoming public speaker. I'm also an advocate for family who've got children on the autistic spectrum, and I'm also a private piano tutor.
Well done, and thank you very much, Chris. Your life seems very, very busy. Okay. Can you tell me, can you share some memories growing up as a child, as a young person diagnosed with autism? Well,
Um, okay, growing up as a child was not easy.
okay.
It was more of a challenge, but I won't necessarily dig too deep, but I'll just keep it on a straight line if I can. There were moments where people were just looking down on me for no reason. Some were like pretending to feel sorry for my family so
Mm,
that they don't feel like they've been left out, or etc. etc. Some of them are just pretending to be nice. Some were pretend well, like not being nice at all. I mean, during my childhood, but I had some people that were trustworthy,
mm,
and especially when it came to education wise,
mm,
at first it got challenging as well,
mm.
and because then everybody had no idea what was going on in my life, the changes in my body, the changes in my system. They didn't really think of it too much. So they were just thinking that, oh, it was just acting up, etc. etc. But again, you know, it's not really my fault that when the need is required, sometimes people need to sit down and tell themselves, is this kind of challenge that I can handle with or not?
That's right, yes. Yeah, that's interesting though, because when you mentioned about, the way people treat you, because I remember, when my son was young and people will invite my daughter to a party and they won't invite my son. And then sometimes you see young people his age, they will have a party and their parents will invite me and they won't say, oh, bring your son. So because of that, I decided, you know what, I'm not gonna go to anybody's party without my son. If you're not inviting my son, my daughter is not going, and none of us are going to the party. Thank you for sharing that. So, what were some of the things you enjoyed growing up?
What I enjoyed growing up, I was just every summer. Sometimes I'll ride bikes
Okay,
around that time. They
okay.
were my fun moments. Or on a weekend,
Mm,
it would just be like going to one of my family friends and sit with them and just play video games with their children.
mm.
It was very fun and very entertaining for me.
Mm. And it's so funny. You mentioned that you ride bike. A lot of people will say that people with autism find it difficult to coordinate, in terms of, even balancing and you being able to ride a bike. So that shows everybody in the spectrum is quite different. And then you also mentioned about playing with other children. They will say, oh, they don't, they lack social skills, but you're able to play with other children without having any issues. That's really good. That's quite interesting, though. So, what do you think in terms of the spectrum being wide? No, this every autistic person is different. It's not the same.
Hmm. Um, Again, you've just said, or
Mm,
you've just caught my attention
mm,
because, like you said, everyone has their different modes. Some of them may not be into riding bikes. Some of
yes.
them may not be into playing computer games. Some of them may like art and crafts. Some will like
Mm,
cooking. Some of them will like cleaning. Some of them will like either other things that comes to mind,
mm,
or whatever comes their way.
that's
Because
right.
everybody has their own technique,
Yes,
and what fits them, they just go for such.
that's right.
So
Yes.
for me, when you mentioned hanging around with children,
Mm,
the only thing I wanted to touch down was some of them were a bit older than me at the time,
okay.
because
Mm,
then it was kind of like balance,
okay.
because I think some
Mm,
of them were in their teenage or going to 16 years of age. I can't
okay.
remember.
Mm,
I really can't remember. But though it was a good moment, I
mm.
must admit.
All right. Yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah. How old were you when you were diagnosed with autism?
3 years old.
You were three. Okay. So what would you say in terms of, how did your parents feel? Were they ashamed? Sometimes, people are ashamed of, being labeled, autistic. And then people, feel that about self-denial, cultural things going on, spiritual. How do you feel? How was it
Um,
like for your family and for people around you?
I think it was. I think that time they saw it challenging,
Okay.
but I would not say they
Mm.
were ashamed of it.
Okay.
They wouldn't. I would probably would not.
Mm. They just
And I
found it
think it
challenging.
was. I'm trying not to be too over spiritual, but I'll just say what I need to say.
Mm.
But for those who don't believe in God or such etc., because my family's faith was building then in a
Mm.
Christian
Mm.
setting,
Yes.
so they had they were willing to learn, they were
Mm.
willing
Yes.
to know more about how
Mm.
does autism work. So that was very
Mm.
very fortunate for me. If
Mm.
not that, like you said, that could have been a bit of a problem. That
Mm.
could have even been more challenging one way
Mm.
or another.
Yeah, your parents were willing to learn, willing to support you,
Mm.
rather than living in self-denial. Because this day and age, a lot of people will say, "Okay, yeah, their children have got have been autistic, they're neurodiverse. They want them to be neurotypical."
Mm.
So it's quite different. You cannot force a child to be what they are not.
Mm.
The way their brain functions and the way they reason is very different. You cannot force them. So
Mm.
it's about learning your child, knowing your child,
Mm.
and trying to put your child empathizing with your child is putting your child putting yourself in that child's
Mm.
place, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Rather than feeling sorry for the child.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What do you think about people feeling sorry? Because sometimes I know when my children were growing up,
Right.
who used to feel sorry for me? Oh, I'm really sorry for you, kind of
Right.
thing.
For
Yes.
me, the problem is, like I
Mm.
said, like I told you a long time ago, is that being sorry for you as a parent is not helping.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't help anymore. It
Mm.
makes you feel like you're a sore loser,
Mm.
or you're just like an ingrate or whatever it is, or
That's
makes you
right.
feel like you're nothing, or you're just a waste of space, or
That's
whatever
right. Yes.
names you can try it yourself. But I've gotten to realize, maybe just a few weeks or last month, and I said it's time for me to stop
Mm.
everybody feeling sorry for my family that
Yes.
went through this kind of challenges, because I realized
Mm.
it doesn't really help
Mm.
me individually to get where I need to go to, because I don't want you as an individual to feel sorry for me or for my family, because when you do that, it's like you're just like pretending, and the next minute you will just act something else.
That's right.
And when you act something else, then that becomes a problem. That's why I've got a huge problem with the black community generally.
Yes.
Because really, I don't like this playing feeling sorry mind games. Then later, when he or she wants to come close, then you become horrible, or you become very, surrogating or two-faced or stereotyping, because really and truly, I don't want those feeling sorry people around you,
That's
or
right.
me,
Yes.
or whoever. I don't want it anymore. That time for me is over. It's for me, it's finished.
That's right.
But I want people to get to wake up with their senses and say, right, this is not his fault or her fault. Now, the question they should be asking is that, what can I do as an individual to provide for their needs? Because you don't hear